Prison Boss Narcissist, the 20-year reign of terror. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I've provided you with an excellent example of a female narcissist who would engage in physical violence amongst other manipulations towards her intimate partner, primary source, her husband, in the series The Prison Boss Narcissist. This enables you to understand the way that she treated her husband, the way that she engaged in the seduction of other people, her use of lieutenants, and also how it impacted upon her husband. If you haven't watched that series, I would encourage you to do so that you can understand how many instances of domestic abuse and domestic violence actually involve a narcissist. It also helps you understand why it is that the male victim in this instance continued to remain with his abuser and didn't, for instance, fight back as many people might expect him to do so. The prison boss narcissist Sheree Spencer, who terrorised her husband Richard at their East York's home, is back in the news again, as more information is released about what went on, and in relation to a television programme that has been made about her behaviour. This enables us to understand more about the narcissistic dynamic between her and her victim former husband. Stuart Carr and Kevin Donald write for the Daily Mail. Chilling, never-before-seen footage from a nanny cam has revealed the moment a battered husband cowered on the floor while his wife hurled abuse at him, tirade, ignition of heated fury, and brandished a knife, threat of physical violence, in their home during her 20-year reign of terror. Damning videos of Sheree Spencer's attacks on husband Richard at their 7-bedroom home in Bubwith, East Yorkshire, were captured on cameras the couple had installed to monitor their children. And explosive clips from police interviews show Sheree casually lying about her husband being the abuser, projection, victim status, denial, only for her face to turn ashen when confronted with the footage. On one occasion, she defecated on the floor and forced him to clean it up, belittlement. And on another, she beat him with a wine bottle, physical violence, so hard it permanently disfigured his ear. Sheree, 45, was jailed for 4 years at Hull Crown Court in March last year by Judge Kate Rayfield, who told her, "This is the worst case of controlling and coercive behaviour I have seen." Now, Mr. Spencer is sharing his story in vivid detail in a Channel 5 documentary, My Wife, My Abuser, The Secret Footage. The Mail Online can also reveal that Sheree Spencer went to desperate lengths through the courts in a bid to stop the documentary being broadcast. Thus, this woman, who repeatedly abused her husband over 20 years, sought then to nullify the threat to control that was posed as a consequence of a programme revealing all of her manipulative and violent behaviours. The footage, obtained from the nanny cam, gives a chilling real-life echo of Harlan Coben's Netflix adaptation Fool Me Once, starring Michelle Keegan. In it, Keegan plays a woman who installs a small camera to keep watch over a young daughter, only to recognise an eerie figure from her past creeping into her home. Mr. Spencer felt his harrowing experience should be seen to raise awareness of the type of abuse men can suffer in their daily lives at the hands of violent partners, but Sheree tried to block it. He told Mail Online, Sheree tried to stop the documentary being broadcast in the Crown Court, but failed. Naturally, the broadcast of this programme, showing her abusive and violent behaviours, would threaten her control because a nationwide audience would see it. Thus, her narcissism guided her to seek to prevent it being broadcast, even though it was the truth of what had happened. It isn't detailed the grounds on which she sought to make the application, but it evidently failed. She also applied for a prohibited steps order through the family court, which was rejected and thrown out at the first hearing. I suspect, therefore, in the family court, what she sought to do was suggest that the material would somehow be harmful to the couple's 2 children, and therefore sought a prohibited steps order. Thus, the narcissist is using the court process to nullify threats to control, but she failed. The broadcast apparently had been delayed due to the legal challenges for about 6 months, but now it's finally going to be shown. Mr. Spencer explained that he was hopeful that the film will be well received and will make a difference. The hidden nanny cam gave a vital way out for battered husband Mr. Spencer after he endured years of physical and verbal abuse from his wife that left him broken on the floor in a fetal position. Mr. Spencer had met his wife in a nightclub, Hunting Ground, in 2000, and the pair married on a Thai beach in 2009. After they welcomed the eldest of their 3 daughters in 2015, Mr. Spencer installed the nanny cam so they could keep watch over her. Instead, footage showed furious wine-fueled tirades in which Sheree would call her husband fat boy, a pussy, and dum-dum, and inflict bruises and scratches that he would need to cover with makeup before going outside. Assertion of control through verbal insult and also through physical violence. Mr. Spencer told the Sun we had 2 cameras, one in the playroom and one in the bedroom. They were there for reassurance to keep an eye out because it's a big house. It was on something like a 28-day roll, where if something new came in, it would delete the old footage. When police finally became involved, Mr. Spencer handed over 43 images of his bruised face taken on different dates following savage assaults he had suffered. A police officer tells the documentary, "This has been going on for such a long time, that this is who he is, withdrawn and broken." Mr. Spencer said, "I just wanted the abuse to stop. I was in a situation there was no way out." Hull Crown Court heard that mother of 3 Sheree had carried out most of the attacks on her husband in the family home. Sheree worked at the highest levels for HM Prison and Probation Service and bragged, grandiosity, to friends that she had the ear of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. A former friend said she would brag about being only 2 down from the Prime Minister in her field and had meetings with Boris Johnson, who she spoke of as though he were a friend. Magical thinking, the way that the narcissist automatically assumes a closeness to people, even though they've only dealt with them perhaps once or twice or in a formal setting. She was bragging about her high-flying career, grandiosity, while subjecting her poor husband, a lovely man, to daily abuse, degradation and humiliation. Within months of becoming a couple in 2000, Richard endured her violent rages, heated ignited fury, which happened whether she was drunk or sober. The worst of the assaults on him happened in April 2021, when his wife attacked him with the empty wine bottle. Mr. Spencer, who stands at 5'10", told the court that although he was bigger and physically stronger than his petite wife, he did not fight back when she began to attack him. He said he almost became immune to the physical abuse she meted out, even though she would cause him immense pain by sinking her teeth into him. But he said that the mental scars left by 16 years of her hate-filled attacks were what would leave the most lasting effect. Her reign of domestic terror finally ended in June 2021, when the police were called to their family home by a concerned welfare worker. Her arrest that day on suspicion of assaulting her husband opened a door into the hell he had kept private for his entire married life. Mr. Spencer said, "In trying to block the footage being shown, she continued trying to assert control over me, even from jail, but fortunately justice prevailed." Not only is she looking to assert control over him from jail because he's come up on the radar, she's looking to nullify the threat to control that's posed by the wider exposure of her behaviour. He added, "It's astonishing to me that she's living a relatively easy life in prison, having been moved to an open jail after 6 months of her sentence." The judge in her case described it as the worst case of coercive control she'd ever seen, so why she was considered for open prison so early is beyond me. She's due for release next February, but she is able to go out for family and friend meetings and has been working in a cafe. It doesn't seem a just sentence for someone who has committed such serious offences. Since his ex-wife's imprisonment, Mr. Spencer has joined a campaign called Mankind Initiative, which supports male victims of domestic abuse. He has also found love again and told media he's happily settled with his new partner. He said, "I've become resigned to the fact that I will never fully recover from her abuse and that it will have a permanent damaging impact on mine and my family's life." Sheree's abuse towards me evolved and escalated over time. She used repeated acts of physical assault, threats, verbal abuse and humiliation to punish and exercise control over me. The abuse was hidden from the outside world, including friends and family. Sheree manipulated me into believing that I was a responsible and willing participant in the abuse. She remorselessly proclaimed that I deserved to be punished and that it was a justifiable consequence of me disappointing her in some way. Notice, therefore, another example of how the narcissist justifies the behavior. She knows that she's doing wrong by shouting at him, by humiliating him, by beating him. But she did it because she viewed it as his fault, because her narcissism told her that. He said, little by little, I lost my independence and willpower and just accepted that was how my life was going to be. I complied with Sheree's demands, and she controlled most aspects of my everyday life, including things like what activities I could participate in and when, which room I could sleep in, and even which toilet I could use. Gradually, I became isolated, another form of manipulation, from family and friends, and was left deep in debt, financial control, causing me to feel trapped. Well, Mr. Spencer is now free of all of that to a large extent, albeit, of course, the memory of what happened to him continues to live on, and his wife has still, or his ex-wife rather, has still sought to assert control over him. Nevertheless, she failed in her bid to halt the program, and he is slowly putting his life back together again. But it demonstrates the way that the narcissist, even though the relationship was over, still has that need to assert control over the former intimate partner primary source when he comes back up on the radar. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.